Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with Norsca, another user-submitted replay. They're going to be taking on our beloved Empire, so we'll see how this goes. We've got Wulfric the Wanderer here with a Shaman Sorcerer, Lore of Death, familiar with great weapons, and the Mist Stalkers, pretty typical. We've also got a unit of Marauder Champions, which personally I'm not a big fan of in this particular matchup, but these guys are going to prove pretty useful here. You'll see why in a minute. We've got a Sword and Shield Champion up front. I definitely approve of these guys in this matchup. Just right now, with the way the game mechanics work, Elite Sword and Shield Infantry is actually pretty good around, just all around. And Marauder Champions aren't amazing, only 80 armor, but they do have 53 melee defense, pretty decent melee attack. Total weapon strength has only 9 AP, but still pretty durable frontline unit, and a great kind of synergy with the Famir. These guys can sunder the armor, so the Marauder Champions with the shields don't necessarily need the AP, and they get better melee stats as a trade-off. So we also have got a couple of light Marauders on the flanks. Looks like some Norscan Ice Wolves and Warhounds, Beasts of Tashanar with a couple of Marauder Horsemasters, and over here we've got a Marauder Chariot, so pretty interesting pick. For the Empire here, gone with very infantry-heavy force, and hence the reason why those champions may come in useful here. We've got 3 greatswords in the front line, with plenty of state troop spearmen with and without shields, a couple of crossbowmen, Karl Franz leading the way up in the air. Let's have a look at his loadout here. We've got, let's see, Hold the Line, Foe Seeker, and Galmaraz, so no Stand Your Ground or Reikland Runefang, looking to use Karl more as a goon rather than a buff, kind of support lord. We've also got a Jade Wizard here, Hammer of Witches, some Handgunners, Halberdiers, only 1 unit of Cav, Royal Altar Griffites, and we've also got some additional crossbowmen. So yeah, without further ado, let's get the battle underway. And as the Norskins approach here, let's kind of take a look from the Empire's perspective and talk a little bit about target priority. So you've only got the 1 cannon here, and you're going to need to pick and choose your targets as to what you're shooting at. So just in general, you've got a few options. You can shoot at these Horsemasters, which is a decent target, 700 points, not too bad. In terms of pure value, obviously shooting at Wulfric's not bad, but in general, cannons aren't quite accurate enough to hit single entities on a horse who are relatively small like this. You could take a pot shot at the Chariot, try and score a lucky hit, where if you do get 1 or 2 successive hits, you can potentially take down a unit model here and, take out a third of the unit's stopping power in a very short period of time. Yeah, obviously, like I said, Famir are going to be very good targets once they come into range. The Mist Stalkers will be stalked, so they're not going to be visible, but these Famir with great weapons will be. I'm going to say that actually the best target is probably going to be these Norscan Ice Wolves, at least first, because they don't have the greatest leadership in the world, and just that Frostbite is a big pain to deal with, especially when you've only got 1 unit of cavalry yourself. You want to be able to be mobile with them and not have them tie down like Franz or anyone else. So I would definitely, take a couple shots there, see if you could rout them off real quick, and then either go after the Horsemasters if they're in range. Once the Famir come into range, go after them, or maybe take a shot or 2 at the Chariots. But the Horsemasters are certainly a decent target, and the cannon is going to stay committed on them for the time being as we kind of advance across the map here. And a very nice side shot through the side of the formation there, so pretty solid value so far. Meanwhile, just kind of feinting around a bit, not wanting to rush anything in too hasty. The Norscan player doing a very good job kind of advancing everything within range of the cannon at the same time, so that he's forcing that Empire player to pick and choose. We can definitely see the results of that coming into play here, as this unit of Marauder Horsemasters is getting pretty low. That being said, I mean, these crossbowmen and other units could potentially fend off the Horsemasters. I mean, they do have 50 armor, but still, that's not the best. And they will be okay in melee, but they're not amazing. But I definitely understand going after the mobile targets just in general is the most important thing. But I would say that these Ice Wolves might have been a little bit of a better target. The Chariots as well could potentially be painful because you only have the 1 unit of cavalry here with the Royal Altar Griffites. But these Hounds are charging in, and Franz comes down, and actually just the Norscan player, very well done, kind of backing away from that engagement there. Karl Franz, definitely a very, very scary combatant, so not wanting to sacrifice that there. Some nice gunfire in the front line going after the champions. You can see the shields coming into play there as that unit takes actually very little damage from that volley. And just across the board here, this is the reason why I'm not the biggest fan of greatswords in this particular matchup, is Famir will just come in and stomp all over them. They're going to sunder their armor, making the Marauders more effective. And then, of course, they themselves deal armor-piercing damage, so the greatswords just in general going to get dragged down here pretty badly. You can see this unit is also saturated by champions, which is not great. This unit of greatswords is getting some support from Franz. These Marauders will likely terrify away pretty soon, but you can see the back line, just the mobility advantage, definitely in the Norscan's favor, doing a great job kind of spreading out his mobile units. We got Hounds over here, Chariots over here, more Hounds over here who are soaking the Royal Altarfights, but somebody's got to take them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Beast of Tashnar, the Shaman Sorcerer is standing in the back line, which is maybe not going to be the best situation for him to be in. He's going to get shot, smacked around by the Jade Wizard a bit, but nonetheless, he should be able to hang around. Speaking of which, what spells is this guy rocking? Let's see, Fate of Yuna, Spirit Leech, and Soul Blight, not too bad. Ooh, a bit of friendly fire there from the cannon, and all of a sudden Wulfric is in a little bit of a dangerous situation, getting surrounded by the Royal Altarfights. Franz comes down, but Wulfric does pop that Hunter of Champions there just to debuff Franz's melee defense. Unfortunately not going to debuff his melee attack, but going to send in these Beasts of Tashnar to screen here so that Wulfric can escape, and then follow up with the Famir with great weapons. They will do work against Franz while he's got this Hunter of Champions effect on him. So yeah, Famir going to come in. Cannon fire going directly over the Famir's heads. At this point, I would definitely say just focus fire on those Famir with great weapons. But yeah, at this point, the Empire backline definitely getting compromised pretty heavily. That being said, the balance of power not looking great for the Norskins. You know, they do have some infantry in play here, but the infantry fight didn't go quite as decisively against the Empire as one might have expected. A lot of spearmen and halberdiers hanging around in this late game, even if most of the great swords are routed off at this point. So yeah, Franz fighting valiantly against the Famir. Again, the Famir with great weapons not going to be the best target, but man, what a shot right there with the handgunners, just like point-blank range, shooting into the backs of the Famir. That will definitely do some damage, but looks like Franz is going to try and pull away from that Soul Blight, and oh man, I must have just missed it, but it looks like that Sea Fang just went directly through these reforming state troops here and just did a ton of damage, so very well-aimed Sea Fang there to kind of do a ton of damage to these reforming troops here. You can see at this point, that alone did a lot of damage here, and there's no response now for the Chariots. The Royal Altarfights tied up in the front line against Marauder Champions. This is really not where they want to be. These guys need to get out and get mobile and try and finish off these Chariots here, who currently are free to just cycle charge with impunity. And you can see the Norscan player doing a good job pulling back away there and trying to get away from Franz and these halberdiers, even if one of the models does get caught up a little bit here. The rest of them do get away. And interesting to charge the Royal Altarfights there, but at this point the Royal Altarfights suffering from a low model count. That being said, the Spearmen supporting definitely do help, but we'll see if the terror is enough. There are some champions in here as well. Of course, they do some armor piercing. Still got the Miststalkers around, providing terror for the Norskins, terrifying away several units of Empire skirmishers there. The cannons being tied down at this point, so balance power back towards even, and the Norskins not looking quite out of this yet. I think these halberdiers will do pretty decently, but just in general, halberdiers not the most cost-effective troops. Crossbowmen, also the lack of AP here is really going to hurt against the Famir in particular. You can see Franz has taken a ton of damage here. Hunter of Champions once again up on him. He's going to try and come down and finish these Chariots, but yeah, it looks like he did finish off one model there, but Wulfric's coming, so Franz is going to have to be careful. Looks like he's going to try and pop back up in the air, which he does manage to. An Earthblood going down on those great swords. Fortunately, running towards the Miststalker is just going to immediately get terrified away. So at this point, Franz is going to come try and finish off Wulfric, but honestly would have liked to have seen him go out and try and rally some of these skirmish units here. At this point, he is going to probably be able to finish off Wulfric. He takes a Spirit Leech. Wulfric's going to go ahead and just rush back in and hold him in place for the Famir and other units to follow up. He does just whack Wulfric there, but Franz himself gets whacked by a Famir, and with that the Empire troops are going to more or less give up the fight. You can see the army losses finally tipping, or the balance of power rather, finally tipping towards army losses for the Empire. The Norskins pulling ahead quite decisively, and we'll fast forward through this late game cleanup as it is just the Famir death blob sort of rolling up the Empire troops. As is pretty common for late game Norsca when they're in the lead. So yeah, fun battle. Thanks for sending that one in. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Very interesting builds on both sides. You know, more or less standard what you would expect from Norsca. The champions with the great weapons are an interesting pick, and the chariots are too. I kind of see both points there. You want to take down the great swords, and in this particular battle ended up working out quite well because of the numbers of great swords brought. 92 kills and an XP chevron on those champions. These guys were definitely living up to their name, true champs here. Quite a bit of chevronage, and 49 kills for the Famir great weapons here, 95 kills on the Miststalkers. These guys are definitely MVPs as well. Wolfric himself getting 79, not too bad. And yeah, just in general, the Norscan front line rolling up quite well. 50 kills on Marauders is not bad, 76 on Champions. And when you consider these Marauders were fighting great swords for part of that time too, and actually getting quite a few kills thanks to the armor sundering of the Famir. One of the reasons why Famir are so popular right now is that synergy between the armor sundering and high DPS of a lot of Norscan units. Personally, I probably would have cut the champions because you've already got plenty of AP with the warriors. Maybe just brought another shield champion just to optimize a little bit on cost and missile block chance. But overall, very well played to the Norscan player. For the Empire player, I do think that this build is a little bit static for what you're going to face as Norsca. Norsca is not super great against massed heavy cavalry. Famir with great weapons certainly are good against heavy cavalry, but just in general, you go very mobile and aggressive with the Empire, and I think that your approach works out a little bit better. So just in general, Karl Franz, pretty decent option here on Deathclaw. Yeah, hold the line. If we actually go with the same loadout here, a pure duelist loadout rather than a support loadout. Although I would say having these even just to support Franz himself in a very clutch, critical situation can be very useful. So personally, I would recommend taking them. It's going to make Franz pretty expensive, but I think it's worth the extra spend to have those support abilities, even if you're just self-buffing Franz in a key situation. But definitely good to have the support as well. We're going to grab that Jade Wizard there, Earthblood and Regrowth, no surprises. And I'm going to go a little bit lighter on the front line, just some tokens, kind of spearmen, to hold the line here. And we're going to go a little bit more aggressive on cavalry now, because skin wolves theoretically are a danger, not really. You might see Throg as well. It may be worth bringing a warrior priest to support the Royal Altar for fights. You can grab the Hammer of Sigmar for nice and cheap to give them a bit of extra punching power, and the Banner of Eternal Flame will give them fire damage in case they run up against like Throg or like a Frostworm or something. There's lots on the Norscan roster that's weak to fire damage, so potentially very useful there. And then let's see here. Pistoliers, actually not a bad pick if you want to go very cav heavy and pretty aggressive with like lots of Reiksguard. We've actually overspent a little bit here, so maybe we cut some of these guys down, but going with something like this, you can use your Pistoliers to kind of get up in the Norscan's face, try and draw out some of their hounds and their other noble units to, take them out with your Reiksguard and then pull back to your own lines. Easier said than done, especially if your opponent's nearby with Famir, but you typically don't see a lot of Skin Wolves, and they just aren't that good against heavy cavalry right now, especially if you have that Banner of Eternal Flame hanging around. You can usually see them off without too much issues, so something like this, a little bit more aggressive on the cav and with mobile skirmish rather than more of a static skirmish line, I think is going to work out a little bit better against Norsca. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.